I guess to my Caps. Obviously, the big thing was the game was the first game being broadcasted on the NHL on TNT. I feel like the NHL has a lot there's a lot of pressure on the NHL and TNT to make the coverage really, really great. And with it being the Caps opening night, obviously the big story is Ovechkin. And Gretzky's on that panel. So the opening night, Caps Rangers, Wayne Gretzky, first game NHL TNT. What's Ovechkin going to do? Right. And obviously they kept talking about the record to Wayne Gretzky. And in my opinion, Gretzky probably hears it all the time. So it's probably played out to him. I thought opening night went really well. It couldn't have gone better for the Caps. Ovechkin, obviously, with a great one, watching NAB 2. Hopefully shutting down all of O'Reilly's talk about the Caps being a team of grandpas. Ovechkin hasn't seemed to slow down. Granted, that's not been the argument. I feel like it's going to be harder when he gets closer to 40 and 41 than he is at 36. They kind of pummeled the Rangers. I felt like the team was playing how they should be playing. Obviously, the team hasn't had much turnover from last year, but they did slot in Hendrix Lapierre. He's a Lapierre, excuse me, 19-year-old center. He's the only really new face on the team this year, save for Ferravari, who drew a top line spot with John Carlson on the top defensive end, who's kind of bided his time in the minors and all that. And Lapierre got his first NHL goal. Family in attendance, girlfriend in attendance. Good for him. I know you've seen the highlight, but if anyone hasn't, I think Oshie was more excited than Lapierre was. Basically yanked him off. Basically yanked him off the ice. But I couldn't complain about that game at all. The result was, I think it was 5-1 final. The power play was clicking. I think it went 3 for 6. At this point, with the Capitals, there's no surprise. I mean, not to put him on the power play. It was a little bit shocking because Backstrom is out, and they actually put him on the IR long term, so he has to miss a minimum of 10 games and a minimum of 24 days. So he's not going to be on the team for a little while here. So Lap's definitely going to get his looks. But yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see the power play kicking at that rate without Backstrom. I think they had Mantha in his spot there, and yeah, it was just really a great opening game for the Caps. As a fan, my big thing going into the season is if Nick Jensen can continue to be like a great defenseman. When he was paired with Chara last year, he turned around his game. I mentioned in my kind of season preview article where I was discussing the lines and all that before opening night that I feel like this Nick Jensen is a big question mark because they don't have Chara. And before the years prior, after the Capitals got him from the Red Wings, he didn't look so great. And I was like, he's holding up a spot from Ferravari and some of the other prospects who look good. And then Chara turned around his game. So I was really curious to see if he'd be able to carry that over into, a season where he's kind of the guy. And he's looked great. Even versus Tampa, they ended up playing Tampa last night. And granted, it was an OT loss. Nick Jensen looked great. I have some bad things to say about Justin Schultz. Although he got a goal in the first game, so I'll give him a little leeway there. But he made a couple of egregious turnovers, right into the neutral to Tampa, and Vanacek kind of stood strong. I think it might come of a shock to some Caps fans, although if you've listened to our podcast or watched some of the other episodes, I think I've mentioned that I feel like Vanacek's going to be a better goalie than Samsonov. Laviolette has decided to start Vanacek the last 2 games, which I figured it was going to be Vanacek's net, towards the end of the season, sort of like what happened last year. Kind of shocked to see Laviolette with him out of the gate, but he's proved that, he can be the guy. I think it's going to be him going forward. He looked really good in the game versus Tampa. I thought the Caps as a team kind of digressed from the showing on Wednesday night, but Tampa's a much better team than New York, the Rangers, and Vanacek stood strong. Like I said, overtime loss. Fucking Stamkos just ripped it on a 2-on-1, 3-on-3 in OT. But I mean, I think I said in the group chat to you and O'Reilly that Stammer was due. He was getting his looks that game. It was just a matter of time for him. So I wasn't shocked that they lost. They blew a power play in overtime a little too much passing. I feel like they should have been shooting some more on the power play. I mean, 4-on-3, full 2 minutes, basically fresh ice, starting overtime. You have to score that, especially with that crew. So that was a little bit disappointing, especially after the opening night showing for the power play. I couldn't really complain after Stamkos scored there because you had your chance. But I think the team looks great. Ovechkin looks great. He scored in the Tampa game too, so he has 3 goals in 2 games. I think Gretzky is shaken a little bit. He's looking in his rear view, knows Ovechkin's coming. To Ovechkin's point, uh, he passed Marcel Dion for 5th time overall on the opening night TNT. So if you're a casual fan, turned on TNT, this is your first NHL game, in 10 years since it's been on the national stage. You got to see Ovechkin move his way up in the history books, which I think was great. And I don't want to overlook the fact that Laviolette became the winningest coach in American history opening night with his victory. He took sole spot there. Tortorella was on the list. I think Biles was on the list, but the list is topped by the Caps' very own Peter Laviolette right now. And I was singing his praises when the Caps fired Reardon 2 years back, and there were available coaches. People were talking about Babcock coming in and stuff like that. But Laviolette was my number one, even with the disappointing playoff series last year to Boston. I still do not regret him signing with the Caps. He's a great coach. All he does is win. You're familiar with him in Carolina. He got you guys the cup. He probably some of his coaching probably rubbed off on Brendamore, and it's carried over to the Canes. So he is a great coach. Couldn't be happier for him. I think the team's only going to continue to get better this year. I think once they get Backstrom back, that's going to be an instant rejuvenation. Sucks that he's going to be out kind of the first month, but we'll see. I couldn't be disappointed. Go 1-0-1 for the first 2. Looking ahead, though, they do have Colorado. I mentioned in one of our shows that I picked Colorado to win the Stanley Cup. If you've followed hockey, McKinnon is on COVID protocol, so he's going to be out for that game. My boy Landeskog got suspended for a couple with a pretty brutal hit, in the Avs opening game, so he's going to be missing. I think the Caps will have a chance to win that one. They should win that one. I want them to win that one. I think that, just like the game versus Tampa, I think what's telling is how you play versus good teams, even early on. So that's coming up this week. That's the game I'm looking forward to. Then they have New Jersey on Thursday, I believe, and that'll be a good one too. Obviously, New Jersey's a team that they have quite a few young players who can make an impact, who are coming into their own. I feel like Jack Hughes is on the breakout of a great year. He scored a pretty sick overtime goal the other day. As a team, I don't think New Jersey's the best, so hopefully the Caps could kind of lay it onto them pretty well. And then they close out the week Saturday, a 1:00 game. So the grandpas can get to bed early, hit up Denny's for the senior citizens discount and get to bed before 8. So yeah, it's going to be a great week and a great season. I'm pretty excited. I like what I've seen so far. Everything's kind of coming in line. Over the course of 82, let's see if the team can hold up because they are older. But yeah, I'm excited.